The millennial generation is as follows.
Welcome to
Surrounded by idiots.
Radio Podcast.
Hey, welcome back. This is the Surrounded by Idiots radio podcast with your host, Dr. Tony Dufresne, and the lovely Lexi Rodriguez. Hey, Lex.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. This week we are going to talk about something that you brought up, and you're actually right in the middle of, because you're in your late 20s, and it's dating in your 20s versus dating in your 30s. And the one thing I want to say on at the very beginning is, a lot has been said about this. You can go anywhere. You can go to BuzzFeed or Elite or wherever, and you can see differences between dating in your 20s and 30s. And I think if you're in your 30s, you realize the slight differences. What this show is going to be about is the fact that we're going to state a fact. And I think you agree with me, even though you're not in your 30s yet. I think you're starting to get the picture. Dating in your 30s can be much more difficult than dating in your 20s.
And I don't even want to use the word like necessarily difficult, but it's definitely a little bit discouraging, because it's like when you get older, you're kind of trucking up the age that you're really learning a lot about yourself, and you're confident in who you are. So that's what you got going for you, right? Like, you're stoked. Mm-hmm. You may finally have the job you have always wanted. You may have finally started the business you've been working on through your early 20s. So that shit is what you got going for you, and that feels good. But if you're single, and when it comes to dating, this is where your confidence starts to be a little bit unbalanced. With your career confidence or your self-confidence.
Exactly. And we're going to hit on that. It's about sharing time, which is one component to the reasons why it can be more difficult. So the fact is it can be much more difficult to date in your 30s. I've been through it. I went through it. It could be. We're going to give you some tips today on how to make it easier. And actually, it's weird because it's almost like a swing on the other side way more. It's like it can be harder, but it can be a lot easier than your 20s. And if you do it right, and if you have the right mindset, it can be very enjoyable. You can cut out a lot of crap, and it can be way better than the minefield of your 20s. So,
right.
so the one thing I want to start off, I've got a few notes. I want to throw them out to you, and then I kind of want you to bring in your own personal experience being right in the middle of it right now.
Right in the middle of the tornado. Did you see that cow?
You are literally in the eye. You're in the eye of the hurricane. So the reason it's harder in your 30s is because now you've got social and peer pressure to settle down. It's one of those social things where people think that, you're older, and you've got other people, your friends getting married off. Now you're kind of people are looking at you saying, hey, what's the deal? Now, I know it's not as bad as it was with my generation, with you guys, because a lot of you guys are still single later on in life, but that still exists.
Still a thing.
True?
No, it definitely still exists. Absolutely. And you know what? I've like you said, I'm in the middle of it, and you guys have listened to me for the past couple of years on this show, especially on the Walk of Shame radio when I was in my early 20s. And I have always been able to hold strong to my mindset of like, I'll be fine when I find the person I'm going to be with. I'll find them, and I'll know, and I'll, run that out until it doesn't last. But yes, subconsciously you are going to feel certain feelings when you're around your friends, and you're at baby showers, and you're at weddings, and you're seeing your friends, and they have like the coolest relationships. And you know what? It's even worse when, not worse in a bad way, but I have so many dope couples in my life that are like super rad. They have super cool relationships. So it's kind of easier for the single friend when you see your friends fighting with their significant other all the time. And that's another thing. That's usually kind of what it is, I think. But a lot of my close homies are in solid fucking relationships, and it's super rad, and that makes it harder for me because I'm like, damn, that's your best friend. I genuinely see that you are with your best friend. Like, I want that, and
rightfully so, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's
right.
That's something
Absolutely.
that, I mean, who
and it's
wouldn't?
Okay to feel
right?
that way.
Exactly.
And that's why I hate the term, I hate being single, or I'm bad at relationships, or it's like, come on, no, you're not. You just need to step back and see things at more of a clear level, as opposed to looking up at these relationships. You're still on their same level. You're still doing your fucking thing, living life. The only thing is you might be sleeping with more people than them.
You could be. Everybody's bad at relationships at one time or another. First of all, it's like anything learned. You have to learn how to kind of do it, or learn how to not do
right?
it.
Like if you're a 45-year-old
right.
bad at relationships, you need to hire someone to help you.
You would think.
Wouldn't
should,
you? Right? No,
well,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Now the biggest problem is it's one of those things where it's people don't walk around with mirrors, and so they can't really see themselves. People are so blind to their own faults a lot of times,
right.
And that comes. So I want to roll into another reason why it's harder, and another reason you kind of hit on it already, but it's the internal pressure. It's not only the external, but it's how you feel about it and how you process it. You might have grown up in a, and I know a lot of girls and guys in situations where they grew up in families that had kids, or their parents got married early. Everybody's married, or everybody's got a relationship and stuff, and they're all kind of looking at you as the black sheep. And I can say this because this happened to me, thinking, what's your deal? So that there's a subconscious pressure also that comes up, and along those lines is also, and I'm going to speak from a woman's perspective. I'm not a woman, but to you, but it's a biological clock thing too. I don't know if that started clicking with you, but I've seen that many times in women, in terms of that biological clock start kicking if they want a family. Yeah. And let me ask you this, from your perspective in terms of millennial generation and stuff, you guys you're already kind of screwed in terms of the financial thing and the making money
right.
thing, and you're making less than any other generation your age if you take in consideration inflation and stuff. Do you see that as a pressure, the pressure in terms of starting a family? Do a lot of you guys want to do that, but you're delaying it, and it's becoming a pressure point?
I may be lucky because the community I live in, we don't follow social norms as much as I feel like other places around the country. And this is a topic I would love to address as well, is do you operate relationship-wise based off of your geographical location? Because I absolutely think you do.
People do.
I've brought this up in conversations to friends, and I would love listeners to email or comment or whatever. But it's going to be a lot different for a single girl in Southern California living by the beach. It's going to be a lot harder for her to settle down. I mean, obviously it depends on her personality, but than it is a fucking girl in the freezing cold in Minnesota who lives in a small town of 1,000 people, right? Like,
I think that brings up a great point, actually. I think you're right. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And that comes down to context. It comes down to your particular situation.
So the context that I see every day, I don't think that there's pressure. I think that there's more self-inflicted pressure than other pressure. But it is a reality, and this is why I do what I do, is because I live in a community where I can express myself the way that I feel I was programmed to express myself, and I fucking dig the shit out of that. But I have clients that don't feel comfortable or confident expressing themselves the way that they've programmed themselves based off of the patterns that they've created, right?
Sure.
So it's like, if you don't feel confident to express yourself that way, you're just hiding, and you're like gonna settle down with someone for all the wrong reasons because you're not being who you are. This is a point I want to make, is there's huge differences between dating in your 20s and your 30s, but that's just because naturally your brain is more developed when you're in your 30s than when you are in your 20s, hopefully, right? So you physically yes, but some people don't embrace that very well, and they're still sort of stunted. But that is a good point. How about the availability of time with more responsibilities as you get older, like you mentioned earlier? That's a big reason why it's harder. Now all of a sudden maybe you have career responsibilities, or you have other certain responsibilities that take more of a priority rather than trying to cultivate a relationship or go out more. Right. Absolutely. But you know what else is, it's harder to find the time, but you know, if you make some time for someone, and if something inside of you felt like you should make some time for someone, then you need to pay attention, because that's a big fucking deal. When you're 20s, you're fucking going to class and then you're hanging out by the pool all day and everyone's available, right? So you're like, who do I want to hang out with now? When you're in your 30s and you have some sort of feeling that you are exhausted, you had a 12-hour day, but you know you might not get to see this person for 4 more days, you make an hour or two to go get a couple beers or to have a conversation or coffee with someone that you care about. And yes, it's harder, but those are all huge signs that maybe something is there, right? So those are signs you should pay attention to, as opposed to just be like, oh, I'm exhausted.
That's one of the points we're going to bring up in terms of it being easier, because it actually, as exhausting as you are, it actually makes everything easier. Another reason it might be harder is, or it would be harder, is now there's a possibility that the other person has kids.
Right, for sure.
And I've been in that situation a few times, and even with my own. I mean, raising my daughter on my own, and I had her when I was 26, and I was divorced when I was 27. So between 27 and 30, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something, I didn't do a whole lot, because there's a lot of having to do it on my own, and I did have help with family and stuff. And my ex tried to take her once in a blue moon, but overall I had her most of the time. And that being the case, that's the priority. That was the priority for me. And so that made it a lot more difficult, and I was okay with that during that period of time, but it did make it harder. And the women that I did date, they understood that was my priority. And actually, I got my second divorce. I actually got divorced because of that. I got divorced because she felt as though I put my daughter before her, and you know what? I did actually put my daughter before her.
Why wouldn't?
And that shouldn't
you know what
change.
That falls under? It's like life, right? That's life. That's real fucking life. And as you get older, your parents get older, right? Like your family members get older. You have a lot more responsibility. There is a lot more room for something to go wrong that's going to take priority over maybe this guy you met last week at a bar that you do really like, but I mean, life is a priority, right? And family and friends and however you operate, your lifestyle is up to you. But I know if I met a guy and I really liked him, I'd be stoked on it. But if I had to go take care of business with my family or whatever it was, those are priorities, right? So your priorities are definitely a little more solid and screwed in as you're older, as opposed to the priorities.
Yeah, that leads me into my last point. My last point are people are more entrenched in their patterns. And that's a pattern in terms of your priorities. That's a pattern, but other things as well. Just in terms of how you think and what your ideals are, what your goals are, what your passions are, and for any relationship to flourish, you guys have to have a common understanding and a respect for other people's goals, and they have to sort of align. They don't have to be the exact same, but they have to align in regards to you accepting theirs and them accepting yours, and understanding that you can travel that road together. It's probably going to be a wider road with each of you guys kind of, ebbing and flowing along the way. But people being more entrenched in those patterns, you could initially, and this has happened to me a number of times, you could initially be very attracted to a person and hit it off and have a great time because they're fun or they think you're fun, and you have a fun time and you have good experiences. But as that sort of weans away and you become more and more involved with a person, then you realize that maybe some of those things start squeaking out afterwards in terms of it.
I love that you say that, because I was thinking it's so interesting, the dating cycle, and I've only become more aware of this as I've dated a million gazillion people, and when I say dated, I mean lightly dated. Like, I haven't had too many serious relationships, but I have dated a lot. And the dating cycle, every time I see it at the end of it, like when it comes full circle and you're like, oh, fuck, yep, I totally called that, or whatever, whether it's good or bad. Pay attention to your intuition, for sure. I say that on every show that we record. But, right, when you first meet someone, you're like stoked on them. All you want to do is hang out with them. You work and you do shit you got to do, but then your next thing on the list is always like, okay, well, what are we doing today? What are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing this weekend? And that feeling is so fresh and like fiery, right? And then kind of as it goes on, you're like, okay, well, I'm trying now. I have to balance my lifestyle and this person that I really dig. And like fast forward to it not working out. When it doesn't work out, you're just kind of like, all right, well, it didn't go out. I'm single. Like, let me throw on my favorite pair of jeans and my highest heels and let's go start this cycle up again, right? But it's cool to be able to see it kind of develop in front of my eyes, right? And if you're not kind of grabbing what benefit you from that cycle and leaving with that person what didn't benefit you, which might benefit someone else, then you're not doing it the right way. So that's what I also help my clients with is let's find what patterns you are using the right way and what you're using the wrong way, and let's create this, pop in.
It's always better to catch it early, and I have to tell you, going through this many times, and even a couple extra decades after the 30s, it still pops up all the time because you initially have that vibe with somebody and you think this is really cool and they're super fun. Why not pursue it? Why? Because you don't want to sit down and do the 30 questions about what they want and what their purpose is and what the goals are. I mean, that's way too much of an overload, and it's too much. It's too deep at the beginning. So really, there's no way of not going through that first process, and you have to be okay with it not being okay, with it not working out. You just have to be okay with it because you've got to go through that initial part in order to get there. You can't skip that step, sadly, and a lot of times that step does not work out. And I think I always look at it more towards like Major League Baseball in terms of batting averages versus NFL in terms of passing completions and stuff. Because with batting averages, even the best batters in Major League Baseball only hit the ball 30% of the time. 30%, and the other 70% of the time they're striking out. They're failing. Oh, they're failing 77 math, Lex. They're
no, I meant like they're on roids. No, they're failing 70% of the time and they're hitting it 30% of the time. So that's kind of how it works. So let's get into how you can make it easier. The tips to make it easier. Now, these are very simple, and you already have everything, and it's just a matter of getting yourself dialed in to these little tips, and then keeping them fresh in your mind as you go through this process, so you don't get bogged down as you get older and you understand these things. So first of all, you're going to be more mature, which is good. So lean on the fact that you are more mature. You should know more about what you want. That's exactly why we do what we do, is to help you know more about what you want. We don't provide answers. Nobody should provide answers to you. That's all kind of encapsulated within it in terms of who you are and what you want. Look, you're going to look more long term into somebody, and that's just what we talked about in regards to understanding that it's not just about that initial excitement or that initial sexual attraction, because compatibility other than sexual is going to be more apparent. You're going to look for compatibility on other layers versus just this person would be great sex. Other than that, right?
And then quality over quantity, and that goes back to exactly what you said in terms of being exhausted after a 12-hour shift, but you're going to give them your best hour instead of your whole day being available.
And not even you're going to give them; they're going to pull the best out of you. Like, have you ever hung out with someone where you're exhausted and you're kind of like, shit, I don't really want to do this, and then you stay up till 4 a.m. talking because you just are that energized from
That's a good point.
Like, that's fucking
well, that's
right, and that happens.
I think that should be a requirement of every relationship to have somebody that actually energizes you and you energize them. It doesn't have to be constantly.
I was thinking today, but we shouldn't be like, you need a license to drive, you need a license to vote and buy a gun and all this shit. I think that you should be a certain age before we let you there's no way we could ever do this, but date, right? Because I feel like, think about a 21-year-old dating right now. Like, what do you mean? Like, I have employees and coworkers that are 21. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going blah blah blah, I'm going on a date, and I'm like, what do you mean you're going on a date?
Yeah, but it's for different reasons, Lex. I mean,
what do you talk about? No, I get it, but that's why being in your 30s, you're so much more clear and ready to get to the fucking point.
Well, that's because the objective is more clear. If you're looking at the objective as coupling up with someone to have a best friend and to share your life with somebody. I mean, in terms of your 20s, it's more about the context in dating in your 20s is more about just going out and having fun and having, and you surround yourself with pleasures,
you get older.
You can have both. And
a lot of
right.
people don't see that.
Exactly. And that's the whole point about doing this. So understand that you are more in control in your 30s. You are way more in control of what's going on. It's not about you kind of just, going after whatever, doing whatever. You can be more selective, and especially with the fact that your time might be a little more limited. But you should you should look back to all of your past disasters and maybe the good parts of your relationships and take what worked for you to build upon who you are and what you want to be and what you want to contribute to a relationship. Because if you're not okay with yourself, no relationship will be okay with you in it. It's like bringing something bad to a party. The chicken salad's going to make everybody sick at the party. If your chicken salad, if you left it out in the sun, that mayonnaise, woof, man, it's going to make everybody sick. And that's basically the same thing. But if you're more in control, you understand what your limitations are, and you understand what you can give, and you understand, that the problem is there's a lot of subconscious pressure that comes in terms of, I need to be needed, or I need to have somebody, or people, I need to be accepted. A lot of that comes into play with people who are, and I'm sure people who are serial daters. Like they have to be in a relationship or they have to be dating, and that is a psychological problem. That's not a good thing.
Right, for sure. I agree. I think that you just have to be able to see things clear, right? So it all comes down to trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and when you are doing that, things just kind of happen. So for all of our single listeners that are kind of tripping about maybe being a little bit older and single when all their friends are settling down, it's okay, right? Like, go back to what you're doing, what your purpose is on this planet. Do that, and if the right person doesn't come along till you're 45, the right person doesn't come along till you're 45. But if you need help kind of laying out a map of why and who you are and what routes you can take to kind of find where you should be hanging out or spending your time or meeting people, that's when you hit Tony or I up, or when you just kind of go back to the drawing board and start journaling and doing all the fun stuff we always mention on these shows.
And I think it's important because, we talked before the show about the situation where maybe somebody's been in a relationship with one person for a long period of time through their 20s, and now all of a sudden you're solo, and that can be not a great thing. That could be a very scary thing, or it could be something where you think, man, it's been 5 or 6 or 7 years since I've been out there. I don't even know. It's since the Clinton administration, I haven't been dating. So
we were saying it's like you're in a coma.
Which
all of a sudden you step out and you're like, what is going
really
on?
That
scooters.
Yeah, but that's what it is, because it does change and it does shift. But the one thing I want to say is, don't worry about it, because it happens every time, and it happens to a lot of people, and generation after generation it happens. And there's no FOMO here. There shouldn't be. You didn't miss out on anything. People are going to be dumpster fires, whether they're together or they're single or whatever the case may be, and life goes on. The fact of the matter is that if you find yourself single after being with somebody in your early to mid to late 20s, then that's fine. And actually it will benefit you, because the things that you've learned in a solid functional relationship, even if it was dysfunctional, the things that did work, you can take those and you can be more selective and more understanding about how people work, because that's really what it comes down to. You find out how you work and what your flaws are, and you embrace that, and then you find somebody else who you think can fit into that puzzle, and that's what it all comes down to. And if you do find yourself single at 30, that actually is not a terrible thing. If you find yourself single at 40, that's really not a bad thing. I've been single since
you die single, like you lived your best life. Don't worry.
Right, but that takes us into this last part of the show. The last part of the show is me saying that the format for this show is going to change. And after talking to a lot of people and reading through some feedback, a lot of feedback, I'm going to take the show in a little bit of a different direction, and the direction is going to be more like it's going to be a 20-minute show. It's going to be more me. It's going to be pretty much all just me kind of going through some stuff and about mentoring and about the philosophy, really the basis of what I talk to people about all the time, and really what my education and my research and my experience has been philosophy. I have a philosophy degree. And my book is basically on meaning and life meaning and finding life meaning. Yeah. And then I've been mentoring young adults for a long period of time. So that's what the points I'm going to hit, as well as maybe some stuff on creativity and learning and kind of teaching you to be an artist in your own life. Whereas I talked to Lexi, and you really should do the podcast show, and I think you should do like Eternally Single, because
I'm looking for a name for it. Right, I've been producing a show called Higher Standards for the past few months.
I like that too.
I know, but I think I want to go. This sounds crazy, and this is us really just live freestyling this conversation, but I want to go more like a audio blog of the lifestyle I choose to live and why I live it, and also though all the fucking shit that I go through too, because yes, I'm human and I have to pull myself out of a rut once in a while, but I am blessed to have had the education that's kind of helping develop where I want to go when it comes to relationships and therapy and stuff, and that has helped me just personally. Yeah, it's been my education, but it's also helped me personally in this crazy life of dating. I also have such a dope tribe and such dope friends that really allow me to be myself, as I was saying in the beginning. So I think I just want to continue to talk about what I'm going through dating wise. It's interesting because when we started the show, I was single, I quit my job, and I was moving to San Diego. I had just got out of a relationship. Then I moved out here. I was single and partying probably way too much, killing way too many brain cells, meeting so many cool people. Then I was in a relationship for a little bit, and now I'm single again. So and you guys have all heard the reasons why all of that has happened if you've been listening. But I do want to continue a podcast and talk about all the dating shit I'm going through, because I know there are other chicks out there going through it, and I can help, whether it's you listening to the show or it's you hiring me as a coach. So, yeah, I'm stoked. It's going to be cool. I'll have Tony make sure he updates everyone, and I will definitely get everything up on crucialawareness.com. Email me at lexi@crucialawareness.com if you have any questions, and we'll definitely be back doing a couple shows together.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely want to get, come back.
I always call Tony, and I'm like, yo, we have to talk about this. I'm like prime time fired up about it. He's like, all right.
Yeah, because, I always enjoy your relationship takes and being sort of in the middle of it, and me being in a totally different context than you in terms of dating. Yeah. It's always fun to to see what's going on now versus what 20 years ago when I was going through what you were going through. So crazy. It's always fun. So we're definitely going to have you back on and doing some updates and stuff. But again, I will keep the audience here up to date in terms of where what you are doing. Awesome. And that's why I said I hope you continue the podcast, because I think it's a good medium for you. So thanks, Lex. Appreciate it. If you want to get a hold of me, or you want to listen to any podcasts or videos, or get a hold of Lex. Lexi at crucialawareness.com. To me, it's javabud.com, JAVABUD.com. You can get everything there. You can also, the Surrounded by Idiots book is out. Obviously, it's been out since January. You can get it there as well. And it just clicks you into Amazon. Or you can go to Amazon. Just go directly to Amazon. It's like $7.99 for the Kindle version. It's like $16.95 for the book. So, again, if you do have any topics or fun show ideas that you want to float to me, go ahead, Tony at javabud.com. If I like it and I use it, then I'll send you a book. So, and I've already sent out a book, so there you go. So I hope things are well with everybody, and Lex, you as well, and keep us up to date on what's happening. And we'll see you guys later.
Peace out.